Yo, it's Rob here from Showdown. Today we're going to be trying to find the smartest anime character of all time. Guys, just a quick update before we get started. I have restarted my Discord. The link is in the description down below. I had to get rid of the other one because of some issues that were going on, but this one will be much better this time around. And I've also opened up a Patreon if you guys want to support it. Again, you guys just watching the videos and showing love is really all the support in the world. I appreciate it. But if you guys want to have some exclusive perks, maybe playing some gaming tournaments online being uploaded to the gaming channel, voting power on some upcoming videos, some bonus footage from video shoots, and even having first priority to talk when I'm having those community videos with the Discord as well.
Might just be 7 at least 10.
So if you guys want to have access to those things, please click the link in the description down below to help support with the Patreon. But again, you guys just watching the videos and showing love is really all I could ever ask for. So thank you guys so much. Let's get right into the video. All right, so first up we have Destinova going up against Mayuri Kurotsuchi. We know that Kurotsuchi is the scientist from the Soul Society, one of the strongest. We got to see how amazing the Bankai is. We've seen all of his great inventions and techniques. We have to also understand that being a scientist within the Soul Society, knowing that there's people like Urahara there that you're competing with, people like Sosuke Aizen at one point that you had to compete with, and still being able to develop things that can help fight against not only the Arrancar, but now you're talking about the Quincy's as well. Kurotsuchi's name should always be remembered. When you're looking at a Destinova who has been one of the main antagonists in the Alita Battle Angel series, somebody that has the brain biochip, all these different inventions that he's brought out, you still have to say that Destinova was elite within his verse. But when you're looking at the Bleach verse, again, the competition is tough for Kurotsuchi, but he was still able to pull out. So I'm gonna give it to Kurotsuchi on this one. Oh my gosh, this is a no-brainer. We're taking Conan going up against Neji in terms of smarts. Is this really what we're doing? Detective Conan is one of the smartest characters, one of the most clever characters of all time. I'm talking about solving cases that nobody can really do within the verse. Like, he is that elite. We love Neji, but as a fighter, he got outsmarted by Naruto in what? The tuning exams? Like, come on. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Detective Conan all the way. Oh my. No way. So we have Sora and Shiro from No Game No Life. They obviously, as a duo, they work as blind. And then you have Jabami Yumeko from Kakegurui. This is tough for me. And what's crazy about this is one of the first debates that I've ever had on this entire channel. But the thing is, when we had this debate, we were just talking about Sora going up against Jabami. But now you're talking about Sora and Shiro. As blinds, they are pretty much unstoppable. Their verse is ridiculous, but they bet on themselves on every single front, to the point where they bet the entire human race, and they were that confident that they were going to be able to win. You can't beat them in chess, you can't beat them in anything. Jabami is also very elite in that regard. Her confidence is through the roof when you're talking about gambling. She knows she's going to win because she can really out-ego her opponent. But Sora and Shiro together, I think there's too much experience with too many different games. I feel like Jabami can beat them 1v1. If it's Sora going up against Jabami, I can see Jabami winning. If it's Shiro going up against Jabami, I can see Jabami winning. But Sora and Shiro counted together as a group blind, Jabami, it's unfortunate. It's cooked. It sucks that you had to go up against blind in the first round. That's crazy. Aizen going up against Mavis. We have to give Mavis all the credit in the world because she is the first guild master of Fairy Tail and literally developed Fairy Heart itself. So we have to give her all that credit. But at the end of the day, y'all see Sosuke Aizen there. Y'all see what happened with the Hogyoku and what happened with Urahara and that whole situation back in the day. Y'all see what Sosuke Aizen was able to really transcend into by fusing with the Hogyoku. Aizen should automatically be one of the smartest characters in this entire tournament because if we remember correctly, a large percentage of Ichigo's life was planned out by Sosuke Aizen just so he could test out his powers fused with the Hogyoku. That's how elite Sosuke Aizen is. I can't give Mavis that level of hype. Sosuke Aizen wins this one. Next up, we have Metarem going up against Hotaro. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not familiar with Hotaro at all, so I'm gonna need people in the comment section down below to let me know. But I do think that Metarem is one of the smartest characters on this chart as well, because if we do remember, Metarem was the most elite specimen coming out of the Chimera Ant arc. He was elite on all fronts. The only person that he really lost to was Komogi. I mean, even Netero had to sacrifice himself using the Rose Bomb technique just to damage Metarem because he was that lethal. I would have loved to see Adult go up against him, but if we're talking about IQ, especially battle IQ, Metarem is one of the best to ever do it. Gotta give it to him. Next, we got Dr. Vegapunk going up against Edogawa. Now, we do know that Edogawa is from the Bungo Stray Dogs Dogs verse. I know that he's super smart, but I'm not fully caught up on Bungo Stray Dogs. But what I'm going to say about Dr. Vegapunk is you cannot sleep on Dr. Vegapunk. We just have to talk about him having the brain fruit gives him access to more knowledge than anybody in the entire One Piece verse. He's one of the smartest characters because he's able to really create seraphims, making clones off of the warlords and making stronger versions of them. He was able to replicate elite devil fruits like Kaido's. Egghead itself is one of the most advanced islands in all of One Piece, and his knowledge is even so vast that he knows that the past of One Piece is even more futuristic than he's able to achieve right now, and he's been working to try to make something happen and try to connect both worlds. Vegapunk is elite. I'm giving Vegapunk all the praise here. You gotta pick Vegapunk. Ray going up against Conan. We love Ray from Promised Neverland because if there's anybody that was able to keep up with Norman in the Battle of Wits, it was Ray. But the way Ray went about business was not really always the right answer, and we were able to tell that when you have Don and Gilda getting upset with him, Don throwing punches and all of these certain things, and we get that Ray was trying to be secretive. But when you're looking at somebody like Norman, I can't see Ray hanging with Conan in this type of situation because I feel like you would need a Norman to even be in this type of conversation with Conan. Conan was finding out things so easily. I mean, he was blowing away everybody, no matter what the crime was. Conan to me is honestly in the El Ryuzaki from Death Note type of tier. He is that great of a detective. I'm going with Conan. Norman going up against Ami Mizuno. I don't know too much about Ami Mizuno, I'm not gonna lie to you, but Norman, who we just spoke about earlier, is elite. You guys have to remember, Norman was a part of the children farm for the demons, but he was such an elite candidate that he knew that the demons valued their intellect and how smart they were and how big their brains were because that was more tasty for them. He also was able to figure out that Ray was a double agent at that time. He was also able to manipulate other people in the farm like Sister Crone to help combat against the forces that were trying to take him, Emma, and Ray out. We have to give Norman a lot of credit because he did not have a lot to work with. I can't speak on Ami to the right, so if you guys know this character, please let me know, but I think I'm gonna go with Norman. Oh! My goat just arrived. One of my goats just arrived. Ayano Koji going up against Hisoka. This is an automatic no-brainer. No, I'm not even worried about it. Ayano Koji came straight out of the White Room and pretty much told the elites of the school that nobody else can hang with him. I don't know how you beat that. Ayano Koji beats Hisoka. Next up, we have Yuki Soma from Fruits Basket going up against Aqua Hoshino from Oshinoko. I'm not really too sure who to take here. Let's go with Yuki Soma. Dr. Briefs going up against Edward Elric. I mean, it's unfortunate that Ed found himself in this matchup to start because Ed is obviously incredibly smart. You have to be in order to be one of the elite alchemists. But at the end of the day, Dr. Briefs is Bulma's dad, the head of the Capsule Corp. There's nothing else I really need to say because Bulma in her own right would be one of the top 5 smartest characters of all time. So Dr. Briefs, you got to give it to him. Minato going up against Gakushu. Well, considering Minato developed one of the most overpowered ninjutsu in all of Naruto, that being the Rasengan, I'm going with Minato. Next up, we have Amado going up against Hataro. So Amado could definitely be credited for all of these scientific ninja tools that we see in the Boruto verse. I think that alone puts Amado over Hataro for me. Shikaku Nara going up against Levi Ackerman. This is weird. Even though I believe Levi is somewhat smart, I don't really look at him as one of the smartest characters coming out of Attack on Titan, but Shikaku could definitely be thrown in the mix. Now, obviously, a lot of people are going to say, where's Shikamaru? And you can definitely make that case, but Shikaku, obviously being Shikamaru's father, showing up big time in the 4th Great Ninja War. A lot of people can point to Shikaku and say he's one of the greater battle strategist type of general type characters in the Naruto verse. Definitely got to go with Shikaku here. Cars going up against Judge. Oh man. So Judge, being obviously Sanji's father, being the head of Germa 66, created some of the greatest technologies of all time. You have the Germa raid suits that come with all of these different abilities that are very powerful. Queen knows his name because Judge obviously was in Mads as well, one of the greatest science groups in the One Piece verse. Judge is an elite scientist, we have to give him credit. But Cars from JoJo's. Cars was so elite that they couldn't even really beat him. He had so many different mixes of abilities. He was so well-rounded that Joseph had to send him to outer space. That was the only way you were going to be able to stop Cars. You couldn't even destroy him. You gotta go with Cars. Shiro going up against Armin. So this is what I was looking for when you're talking about Jabami going up against Blind. Clearly this is unfair for Armin, because obviously you could talk about Armin being one of the next leaders after Erwin passed away, but for Shiro, that's not enough. Shiro is one of the greatest to ever do it from No Game No Life. Yes, Shiro is better coupled with Sora, but Shiro by herself is still elite to me. Ishigami Senku going up against, I don't even care who's to the right of him, respectfully. You have to go with the main protagonist of Dr. Stone. What Senku has been trying to do is incredible. He's literally trying to start the world again from scratch. Gotta give it to him. Urahara going up against Lloyd Forger. I think this is a no-brainer. You have to go with Urahara. You're talking about somebody that literally developed the Hogyoku itself. Lloyd is incredible within his own verse, but if you're talking about developing the Hogyoku, he's not doing anything of that nature. L going up against Norman. See, this is what I was saying. I gave Norman a lot of credit earlier because Norman figured out so much with so little resources. But we also have to understand that towards the end of Promised Neverland, Norman also lost his way. He forgot what the main mission was, and Emma had to come and help him be brought back. L's situation is different. L already knew that Light Yagami was Kira. He already figured it out from the jump. L's problem was trying to get other people to believe in something that really seemed unbelievable. That is a way harder mission. That is a way harder task for L than I see with Norman, because Norman, the demons were already confirmed to exist. The kids already knew that if they got sent off, it would not be the greatest thing in the world. The problem for Norman winning this matchup here is that L had to prove the impossible. I gotta go with L. Kakashi going up against Bulma. Kakashi, it's a straight up wash. Time machines, Dragon Ball radars, it's too much. You gotta go with Bulma. Kyoya going up against Kaguya. So I do know Kaguya from Kaguya Love is War, but I'm not too familiar with Kyoya. So you guys let me know down in the comment section below who you think wins this matchup. Just off of familiarity, I'm gonna go with Kaguya. Lelouch going up against Itachi. Itachi, this is a horrible matchup for you because Lelouch is one of the greatest to ever do it. Somebody that had to challenge the world with his Gyas. From the moment Lelouch gains the Gyas power, he already knew that it was game time. He developed the Black Knights, disguised himself as Zero, and put in work. Itachi is not in these conversations. You gotta go with Lelouch. Osamu going up against Edward Elric. Again, when you're speaking about alchemy, you have to know all of the elements and know what they can make and know how to use them. It's just, you gotta go with Ed here. No questions. Android 20 going up against Vash the Stampede. So because Android 20 is essentially just Dr. Gero, that's all you really need to know. Dr. Gero developed all of the androids and we see how powerful they are. Vash the Stampede cannot compete with the likes of Dr. Gero. You gotta go with Android 20. Tatsuya Shiba going up against Ben Beckman. Y'all know me. We know when it comes to Ben Beckman, he has been championed as having one of the greatest intellects in all of One Piece, especially being one of the greatest in the red-haired pirates camp. When you're looking at Shanks as a 1A, they say to look at Ben Beckman as a 1B. That's how elite he is. However, I'm not too familiar with Tatsuya Shiba's game, so a lot of people in the comment section down below, if you know of this character, definitely let me know if this is the wrong pick, but I just know how smart Ben Beckman is. I'm gonna go with Ben Beckman here. Caesar Clown going up against Madara Uchiha. Well, considering Black Zetsu exists and that Kaguya was really the one pulling the strings behind Madara, I can't give him credit for any of his W's for real. I really can't. It sucks to say, but it's really Black Zetsu and Kaguya. At the end of the day, Caesar Clown definitely has to be credited for how elite of a scientist he is. Not only does he have access to the gas fruit, so he's able to protect himself and all these other things, but Caesar Clown literally created Smile Devil Fruits, which allowed Kaido to boost his army with gifters. You have to give the W to Caesar Clown. Ray going up against Vin Smoke Judge. As powerful as Ray is, you gotta go with Judge here. Ray's not making any type of Germa raid suits or anything like that. Meteorem going up against Tenya Ida. Why is Tenya Ida here? If you want to say he was a class president at some point in time, I mean, that's cool. I don't really look at him as being one of the smartest characters even in the My Hero verse. The fact that he's up here against Meteorem is kind of blasphemy in my opinion. I'm going with Meteorem. Aina Koji going up against Orochimaru. Oh my gosh, man. Oh. Orochimaru is known as being a master of thousands of different jutsus. He is that elite. He has that vast amount of knowledge in Naruto verse. He even improved upon what Tobirama was able to figure out. You know, the reanimation jutsu and things of that nature. Orochimaru made it so much better that when you're talking about the fourth great ninja war, you have to mention that the other previous Hokage that passed away were able to stand there and box as well because of Orochimaru's greatness. Did Orochimaru operate in the right fashion? evolution all the time? Not always. But when you look at Kabuto, in Sage Mode Kabuto, Orochimaru should be given some flowers in that regard as well. But when you look at the dominance of intellect, Ayano stands. There is nobody in the classroom of Elite Verse that is more dominating than Ayano. We believe that Saki Anagi had a shot, but then we quickly found out that she was of no match to Ayano either. If we're talking about who's more clever, it's Ayano. If we're talking about who has more intellect, more knowledge, it's Orochimaru. You could really go either way with this one. I don't even know, y'all. If we're speaking solely relative to their verses, Ayano looks more dangerous than Orochimaru in the Naruto verse. Point blank period. Because he's not even really trying and he's dominating everybody. I think I gotta go with Ayano. Killua going up against Mitsumi. I gotta go with Killua here. Clearly one of the greatest to ever do it in the Hunter x Hunter verse. Keeps going in check. You gotta go with Killua. Next up we have Sebastian from Black Butler going up against Izaya from Durarara. Now I don't fully remember how elite both of these characters are because it's been a long time since I've seen both series, but something tells me to go with Sebastian. Are there 2 L's in this? Is L that powerful? There's 2 L's in here, or am I wrong? I'm not too sure what's going on here, but L going up against Koro Sensei. We love Koro Sensei, but again, I think L's task was so much tougher because you have to understand that Light Yagami was also incredibly smart as well. But at the end of the day, L knew that Light was Kira. He just had to prove it to people who didn't believe that the Death Note was even a possibility, that Shinigami actually even existed. And that's tougher than a lot of people's challenges on this chart. Not saying Koro Sensei isn't incredibly smart though. This is just a horrible matchup for him in the first round. Caesar Clown going up against Ayano. Personally, I believe this is the same situation as Orochimaru. If we're talking about smart scientifically, you have to go with Caesar Clown. If we're talking about how clever a character is, you have to go with Ayano. Because we are at a crossroads now, that means that Ayano and Caesar Clown would have to have some type of verse equalization type thing. And if you're talking about which character would dominate more, I think you have to go with Ayano. I'm sorry, it just is what it is. Ishigami Senku going up against Sebastian, gotta go with Senku. Dr. Gero going up against Meruem, I have to go with Dr. Gero, making all the androids. Ben Beckman going up against Judge, I think you have to go with Judge here, creating Germa 66, all the raid suits. Aizen going up against Ayano. Ooh! Uh-oh, it's time. Man, I really want to see Ayano make it to one of the final rounds, but he met up with Aizen, man. You know, Hogyoku and all. You gotta go with Aizen here. I think that even though Ayano is incredibly smart coming out of the White Room, Aizen will probably come out saying, I made the White Room. So you gotta go with Aizen here. Meruem going up against Yuki Soma. Probably gonna go with Meruem here. Battle intellect is insane. Cars going up against Conan. Damn, another matchup where I'm stuck. Like I said, Detective Conan is in the L types of conversations for me as a detective, but Cars is so smart that nobody in JoJo's Part 2 was able to stop him. They had to send him to outer space, as I've said earlier. I feel like Cars' smarts are more pointed to his battle IQ than his overall IQ. I think Conan has overall just a greater IQ and just being able to read humans and how they interact. Somebody like Detective Conan would be able to predict what Joseph is about to do before he even gets sent to outer space if he had Cars' abilities. That's how smart Conan is. I think I'm gonna go with Conan here. Mayuri Kurosuchi going up against L. These are getting so tough. Think I might have to go with L. Because even though Kurosuchi has figured out so many different things in the Bleach verse, you can make an argument that he's not even the greatest scientist in the Bleach verse. L, there's no debate that he's the greatest detective in Death Note. You could talk about, well, Nier and Mello together were able to... Let's get serious. L already knew that Light was Kira. This seems blasphemous, but I'm gonna go L. Shikaku going up against Conan. I'm going with Conan. L going up against Lelouch. Oh my gosh, bro. Now, if we set up a scenario where L is trying to figure out if Zero is Lelouch or not, would L be able to pull it off? Because he's dealing with a different power than the Death Note, he's dealing with the Gias. It would definitely be interesting to watch. I'm honestly not sure who to take between these two. L is so smart as a detective, but as a general and just a battle strategist and just a strategist overall, Lelouch is one of the greatest to ever do it. So I'm gonna go with Lelouch here. And the only reason why I say that is because I believe Lelouch is smarter than Light. Not by a long shot, but I do have Lelouch over Light. Dr. Vegapunk going up against Shiro. If this were blind, maybe you could have a conversation about who would win in games or certain things like that. But because Vegapunk's knowledge is so vast, he literally has a whole storage for all the stuff he's learned separate from his body. You got to give it to Dr. Vegapunk. He knows so much. Norman going up against Minato. Like we said earlier, Minato developed the Rasengan, but Norman had to do more with less. I'm going with Norman here. Dr. Briefs going up against Amado. I'm going with Dr. Briefs 100%. Kisuke Urahara going up against Blind from No Game No Life. Oh my gosh, bro. These are so hard, bro. This might be another Ayanokoji type situation where Blind was so devastatingly dangerous to the entire No Game No Life verse that you have to give them the edge. Just because they're not in the Bleach verse doesn't mean that they aren't as smart. If you take somebody like Blind and put them in the Bleach verse and give them Bleach type powers, I mean, they would be one of the greatest duos to ever do it. I think I'm gonna have to go with Sora and Shiro here. Killua versus Kaguya, I'm gonna go with Killua. Edward Elric versus Bulma, unfortunate for Edward Elric, but he definitely stops here. You gotta go with Bulma, no questions. Lelouch going up against Conan, another very, very tough pick. I'm thinking of it in a similar scenario to L. Would Conan be able to figure out that Lelouch is Zero going up against Lelouch's Gias power as well? My answer honestly would be no. His verse just does not have access to those types of abilities. So it's a tougher comparison, but I think I'll give the edge to Lelouch. Dr. Briefs going up against Ayanokoji. This is where Ayanokoji stops. Obviously, we broke down the difference between having book smarts and street smarts and common sense and stuff like that, but Dr. Briefs knows pretty much everything in the DBZ verse. You gotta go with Dr. Briefs. Dr. Vegapunk versus Vinsmoke Judge. Judge is incredibly smart, but even Judge would tell you is Vegapunk. Meadow M going up against Norman. I'm gonna go with Norman, respectfully. Senku going up against Killua. No diff, Senku. L going up against Bulma. Bulma, 100% Bulma. Dr. Gero going up against Aizen. You know what? For this matchup, I'll give the edge to Aizen. And the only reason why I say that is because Aizen planned all of Ichigo's life, essentially. Dr. Gero had his shortcomings with a lot of his earlier iterations of the androids as well. Blind going up against Conan, you gotta go with Blind because together they're unstoppable. And I'm shocked that Conan and L have like doubles or triples in this. I don't even know what's going on. Dr. Briefs going up against Blind. Scientifically, it's Dr. Briefs. If this is a game, hold on now. If this is a game, it's Blind. I can't see Dr. Briefs betting the entire human race on a game and being that confident. Either one I pick, it's gonna be wrong based on what type of smarts you're looking for. So I'm gonna go with Sora and Shiro here. Dr. Vegapunk going up against Aizen, same type of scenario here. Scientifically is Vegapunk, clever wise it is Aizen. Well, you could actually even make a case that Vegapunk is more clever based on what's going on with the Gorosei and the tape they're trying to stop from airing right now. I think I can even go with Vegapunk here. Senku going up against Lelouch. Yo, this is crazy. I think I gotta go with Senku though, because Senku, he's actually restoring the entire planet. He is making easier and more efficient ways for people that couldn't even imagine having the technology that came from Senku's time. Not only does he have to do that, but he also has to think as a battle strategist as well. He has to figure out what's going on with Y-Man and all of these different things, as he's also trying to improve society. Senku has essentially 2 or 3 different battles all in one. That's a lot more than I've seen Lelouch have to deal with. I gotta go with Senku. Norman going up against Bulma. Norman, you did all right, but you're not competing with Bulma at all. Dr. Vegapunk going up against Sora and Shiro. Science versus clever again. But like I said, Dr. Vegapunk is also extremely clever too. He's not just a scientist. I think I gotta go with Vegapunk. He has more knowledge. Senku going up against Bulma. I almost want to stop the video now. This round of 16 has been so tough. Bulma is in a scenario where she has more resources, so she's able to capitalize. Senku's in a situation where he has less hands and less resources, but there's also things that Senku can't do that he relies on other people to do. You could talk about Ukyo being the radar of the group, Kisaki being the craftsman. There's certain things that Senku can't do. It's tough for me to think of something that Bulma can't do outside of fighting. But again, Bulma has a lot more resources. I'm gonna go with Bulma, but this is extremely tough. I'm gonna go with Bulma. Bulma versus Vegapunk. I'm gonna go with Bulma again. Time machines and all these different things. I don't even see Vegapunk making a time machine. Obviously, Vegapunk has studied what's been going on with the Void Century and, you know, hundreds of years in the past. He has the ancient robot there and stuff, but even he himself does not have access to the materials that's needed to help advance those types of technologies. Bulma is literally bringing future Trunks back and forth and all of these different things. Bulma is that elite. Bulma is having conversations with Beerus and Whis and being able to use her cleverness so that she can help bribe them and do certain things that Beerus and Whis are willing to train Goku and Vegeta. So as you guys can see here, Bulma won as the smartest anime character of all time. Thank you guys so much for watching, and with that, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.